Good evening, everybody. Thank you for watching my video. I appreciate it very much. Today I want to make installment number 4 for my demand of an apology, a written apology from the leaders of my church, First Baptist Church of St. Petersburg. Dr. Glen Money is the senior pastor. These installments have been going on, I assume, for maybe a couple of years, maybe a year and a half, somewhere in that neighborhood. If I had to guess, I don't know that for a fact, but that would be my guess. It would be easy enough to find out, but that kind of thing takes time, so I don't have a lot of time. That's why I make videos when I drive, because multitasking and whatnot and so forth. So last night I made a video. It turned out to be 3 pieces because my phone can only record a video up to 30 minutes. I guess that's kind of a standard with these phones. I don't know, but or maybe it has to do with disk space, which I don't have much. But anyway, I deleted those because it was just too rambling, and it was just too rambling. Nobody wants to listen to a long video. My videos are long to begin with, so it is what it is. But anyway, yeah, my demand is to have 21 original copies of an apology that covers basically 3 areas. Number 1, an apology for promoting racism from the pulpit, white people against white people, race-based hate, which is what that is. Number 2, for threatening the lives of my grandchildren with servitude and indebtedness on the basis of the color of their skin. And number 3, for, basically professional incompetence, gross negligence, whatever the right terminology is. Just, this is a church. This is not a political action committee, although I do sincerely believe that Dr. Money is trying to turn it into a underhanded kind of, political action committee or political action hub, but that I guess you could say that's a different subject. But if you're going to be a political action hub, then I think you should call yourself a Christian political action hub. There's nothing wrong with that. There are organizations of that nature. My objection or my concern or my beef is with the fact that we should be what we present ourselves to be, right? I mean, this kind of secretive things wrapped within things, which is an occult concept of having an outer cloak of something, but being something else on the inside. That's what I call. It's not exactly professional incompetence. It's just deception, right? It's deceptive, and I really strongly believe that people come to church expecting church. We don't come to church to hear pop culture narratives wrapped in sort of like Jesus-themed rhetoric. Obviously, I'm fully aware that this whole idea that white people are evil, and it's usually or frequently white people saying that white people are evil, and that somehow that justifies it. I'm keenly aware of the fact that that's a pop culture narrative. That's a Caesar establishment endorsed narrative. It's a Hollywood celebrity endorsed narrative. It's a pop academia endorsed narrative, and by pop academia I mean the academia that is prevalent in our day and time. It's like a passing fad. Everything has fad. Science has fads. Academia has fads. Culture obviously has fads. Fashion has fads. Technology has. Everything has fad. So it's pop academia fad narrative. To say that I'm aware of that. I'm kind of ignoring that a little bit by holding Dr. Money and the leadership of this church to a higher standard, and that higher standard is the Word of God. And nowhere in the Word of God is there any talk about a certain race being inferior to another race, or people being responsible for, this is what in the past videos I've called an abyss, because the more layers you take off of this, the more you realize that there's just nothing there. There's nothing underneath the surface of this. It's like I say, it's an abyss. That's the way I look at it. It's an abyss. Because when you start to say, well, there are no races that are inferior to other races. Okay, fine. I think we all agree on that. And people are not responsible for what their great grandparents or their great grandparents did. Okay, and I think we all agree on that. And in addition to that, 99% of the people that Dr. Glen Money reaches, it doesn't even apply to their great grandparents anyway. Their great grandparents, either one. The vast majority of our ancestors came to the United States after the Civil War, after the whole, slavery thing. So it doesn't even apply to us anyway. That's why I say the more you dig down, the more you realize there's nothing here, which makes it very appropriate as a pop culture, whether we're talking about pop Hollywood, pop academia, pop science, regardless, it makes it very appropriate as a passing faddish pop kind of narrative, right? Because those types of narratives are stereotypically vapid and empty and void of anything substantive. It's like something somebody on an acid trip would come up with. It's just like trippy, right? And weird and funky and just out of the ether. There's just nothing. It's like I say, it's like an abyss. It's just nothing. It's just imaginary gibberish. So it's gross negligence, right? It's really just, it's beyond. There really are no words that are strong enough to express how grossly negligent it is. Except maybe we could go on a little bit and we could say that it's abusive, right? It's abusive for an authority figure to stand up in front of people and tell them they're responsible or guilty of something that is like something out of an acid trip, like something out of the abyss. It's like just black, green, poisonous vapor. It's like social cultural poison, right? Dr. Martin Luther King famously said that he dreams of a day when people are judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. And yet we have Dr. Money standing up there just enumerating and obsessing over and focusing on and putting a spotlight on the color of people's skin, right? It's really just kind of like crazy town. It's like, how do you, it's just crazy town. I don't know. I don't know the words to describe. I don't know. You have to, it's a kind of thing. This is the nature of an abyss, right? You struggle to come up with words that adequately describe or capture the degree of the offense, the degree of the violation, the degree of the negligence, the degree of the abuse. That's the nature of an abyss, in my opinion. And then, but and I want to offer also. I want to offer as evidence that I'm not in crazy town myself. I'm going to offer as evidence the fact that Dr. Glen Money doesn't talk about it anymore. I mean, here's a guy with a PhD, and here's somebody on the internet that has no qualifications, and no credentials, right? I mean, I have the credentials of a 12-year-old girl. I have a Facebook account. That's my credentials, right? And yet I can silence him? Wow. See, he knows. That tells me that he knows. So that makes it even more weird, right? I mean, that puts it in, that makes it, what are we at here, by the way? 10 minutes? Okay, I'm doing all right. I mean, that puts it in, if he knows what he's doing is wrong and he's doing it anyway, wow. That's like all cap letters, WOW exclamation mark 3 times, 3 exclamation marks. That's like, wow. That puts this whole thing, and that's why I said I think Dr. Money's evil, because I think he knows what he's doing. I think he knows he's dancing around the edge of the abyss, and he's trying to sell the abyss to the congregation and to the community. And I had a guy, one of his friends, I think maybe, on Facebook get angry at me. I mean, just kind of like, it was just kind of like random and incoherent. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but I gathered from what he said that he's mad at me for saying that Dr. Money's evil. But, you know, let me ask whoever is watching, somebody who gets up and does something like this, what do you call them? Do you call them, is this like is this an accident? Is it accidental? Is it an accident? Is it accidental? It's not accidental. And I will offer evidence for the fact that it's not accidental, because number one, he stopped, okay? And number two, he did it again on Sunday, but not in church. See, he's being sneaky. He's going around. He's like a snake. He's like snaking around. He did it in a fast meeting where he's talking about when he was a little kid, his mom and dad went to eat, and some black family came over from the baccalaureate celebration at the local high school, and the people at the restaurant wouldn't serve him dinner. Blah, blah, blah. Racism. Yeah, So since I'm doing pretty good on time, I want to break that down a little bit because I've been thinking about it. Number one, okay, his account goes like I said, and then he said at the end, my family's silent protest was to never go back to that restaurant. Okay, well, let me just say, let me just address that. That's not a silent protest, because nobody knows you're protesting. And if you're protesting and nobody knows you're protesting, it's not a protest. Okay? I don't know what that is. You know what? It's not a silent protest. It's an imaginary protest. That's what that is. Your family might have been telling themselves that they were protesting. But if nobody else knows about it, I'm sorry, but it's not a protest. Okay? It's an a silent protest. Let me tell you what a silent protest would be. A silent protest would be if you and your family went back to that restaurant and brought some chairs with you and sat out in the parking lot and just sat there and said nothing and drew attention to yourselves by the fact that you're sitting there saying nothing. And then people ask around, or they ask you, what are you doing? And you tell them we're protesting. Okay, see, and you don't make a big scene about it. You're very quiet about it, but your silence speaks volumes, right? That would be a silent protest. Or a silent protest would be if you go in the restaurant and you sit down, but you don't order anything, and you just sit there for, let's say, all day, from 9 to 5, or for 6 hours. And the owners come up and say, hey, if you're going to sit here, you have to buy something. And you say, no, we're protesting the way you treated that black family last night. They say, well, we're going to call the police. And you say, go ahead, you call the police, we're calling the newspaper, right? And let's say you call the newspaper anyway. And we say, hey, we're doing a silent protest here. We're sitting here not ordering anything, and because of the way they treated the black family, right? That would be a silent protest. But just to get up and see, because the reason getting up and leaving is not any kind of it's an imaginary, it's not a protest of any kind, except an imaginary protest, is because people go to restaurants, leave, and then never come back for all the time. People do that all the time, right? I mean, like I can speak for myself. You don't have money to go out to eat more than once every 6 months or 3 months. So you go out to eat, And then 3 to 6 months later, you go out to eat again, you go to a different place, you know? Or maybe you go to a restaurant, the food's not that great, or maybe it's fine, but it's not really that great, and you just don't ever go back, right? That's another reason. I mean, to say that to never go back is a silent protest, that's not a protest. Sorry. I hate to be the one to break it to you. Okay? And there's a myriad of problems with this account, okay? Because it's a classic leftist thing to call everything that happens racism, even when they don't know anything about it, right? I mean, so we have to take into consideration the possibility that maybe there's another reason these people were turned away. Maybe they, wanted something that restaurant doesn't serve, you know? Maybe they wanted something that the restaurant serves, but they didn't have that food that particular night, that particular dish, that particular night. Maybe, maybe it's worse than that. Maybe the family owes the restaurant owner money, and they've owed him money for a while, and the guy's like, look, you've been owing me this money, and I've let you eat here 3 times, but I can't let you eat here tonight because it's just getting to be too much. You got to pay me something. You got to pay me something. And they say, well, we can't pay you that, but we can buy our dinner. And he says, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that tonight. You gotta do something else. I mean, maybe there's some other reason, right? But you just assume it's racism. So that's another issue, right? So, but let's think about this. Because this is another problem. Let's just, for the moment, let's talk about what we do know. Okay? We know that your family, Dr. Money, thought that there was some racism going down. Okay? We know that. Okay. As to whether or not your family's belief was justified, we don't know that. We don't know that. But you thought it was. Okay? And you did nothing. We know that. Okay? 40 years later, you're talking about it as if that's something. That's nothing. 40 years after the fact, I hate to break it to you, but that's nothing. That's literally nothing. Okay? What you should have done is something. Anything. Get up and leave in the middle of your meal and don't pay. How about that? That would have been kind of cool. Or maybe you get up and leave and you pay and you make everything right, but you just write a little note on the napkin, hey, we're never coming back because of the way you treated that black family. That would have been all right. That wouldn't have even taken any kind of courage, as far as I know. Or how about you pay the bill and this would be a really good option, not the best option. I'm going to come up with the best option. Man, a better option would be to eat your food, pay the bill, thank the server for their good service, thank the chef for his good cooking, thank the owner for his good experience and his good food, and then say, hey, listen, I want to talk to you about something. And so you talk to the guy as a friend, and you find out what's really going on, right? You find out what's really going on. And then when you hear it out of the man's mouth, what's really going on, that it's racism, okay, then you know it's racism for sure. You know it's racism, okay? You're not just like looking from a distance, casting judgment based upon stereotypes and cliches, right? You actually know it's racism when the guy says, I don't serve black people right here, okay? Then you know for sure it's right. Now at this point, you've established a relationship with somebody and there's something wrong, right? We don't need to be going around hating people. We don't even need to hate people that hate people, all right? We can hate their hate, but we don't need to hate the haters, right? And so we can be nice and loving and kind to the haters and say, hey, I think the way you treated that person was not good. It was wrong, And to be honest with you, I like you. I think you're a nice person, but me and my family is going to have a really hard time coming back to your restaurant because we're going to be thinking about what you did here tonight. And then ask the person, what their thoughts on it is. You might be shocked. They might say, well, you know what? I hear what you're saying. And to be honest with you, this is just the way I was raised. And so that's what I did. And that's what I do. But even I don't really think it's right. And I don't really even know why I act that way. And so I'm going to, here's what I'm going to do to make you feel better. And because I want your family's business, I'm going to find out who that black family was. I'm going to call them up and I'm going to offer them a free meal a week for a month. Okay? Now that's a little extreme. That probably wouldn't happen, but it could. It could. Okay? It could happen. Or some variation of that. Now, that would be a very civil and a very responsible and a very cordial and a very peacemaking way of dealing with that situation, right? But it's probably not the best. To me, okay? To me, the best way to handle a situation like that, if you're sure that it's racism, or even if you suspect that it is, is to get up, follow the black people, discuss it with your family. You got like 10 seconds. You don't have much time, 30 seconds. Tell them what you're thinking. And then if everybody agrees, you get up, you go out in the parking lot, you meet that family while they're getting in their car, and you say, hey, listen, what just happened to you in there was not right. We want to invite you to come back inside and be our guest, and we're going to buy you dinner. See? And then let the owner do whatever the owner's going to do. You know, to me, that would be an amazing way, because look, there's stupid people in the world. There's racist people, and this is the issue, see? Because you have one racist white person, Dr. Money, up in Georgia, where that's a stereotype, right? That doesn't mean every white person on the face of the earth, including St. Petersburg, Florida, is a racist. I mean, come on, this is an abomination. This is the abyss that you're trying to sell to us, and this abyss that you're trying to sell is the reason that I'm saying that you're evil. Now, I can't actually judge you. So when I say you're evil, I'm saying within the context of what you're doing. So technically, if you really want to break it down and split hairs and force me to use very precise language, what I'm really saying is what you're doing is evil. But it gets a little complicated because it seems like you know what you're doing, and you're doing it anyway, which kind of starts to bleed over into the you're evil range of the spectrum. But I want you to know, and I want everybody to know, whoever, 3 people that watch this or whatever, that I don't actually believe I can judge anybody, including Dr. Money. I don't believe that. I don't have that kind of power, right? I don't have that kind of wisdom. I don't have that kind of perspective, but just in terms of, figures of speech and manners of, and colloquialisms and manners of speaking, I mean, that's kind of like when somebody says, I'm going to whoop you up. I'm going to whoop you down. Oh, I'm going to give you a whooping. They're not literally going, most of the time when people say that, they're not literally going to go give them a whooping. It just means that it's a colloquial way of saying, hey, I'm really frustrated right now. You're frustrating me, you know? And you only say that to people you're friendly with because you don't want somebody to misunderstand, and you don't want to threaten physical violence against somebody who is actually prone to physical violence when you're not prone to physical violence. Because then you're going to be the one that gets a whooping, a literal, real whooping. But anyway, I'm talking about a figure of speech, okay? And to me, this is a deep abyss of profound evil that you're trying to sell to us. And you're stubborn about it. And you're persistent about it. And, you know, you go around and you threaten people's grandchildren with a life of servitude and indebtedness on the basis of their skin. And they demand an apology and you ignore them. And then you do it. You keep doing it, but you do it somewhere else. Wow. Oh, that is really something, man. That's you know what? That's really something. What are we at now? 24 minutes. That's really something, man. That is really something. See, that gets into the whole, just for the record, I got to be completely honest with you. That gets into the whole deep state, Illuminati, New World Order, or as George H.W. Bush would say, New World Order. We are bringing in a New World Order. We are leaving the law of the jungle, and we are going to the affairs of men will now be governed by the rule of law. Yay! New George H.W. Bush, the Lollipop Guild man. Okay, we all know that speech that George H.W. Bush gave, and we all know that when George H.W. Bush talks, he sounds like this. Okay, we know that. And so does Ross Perot. Anyway, because it just fits. Okay, what I say? I said Illuminati. I said New World. I said Illuminati, New World Order. What else did I say? I said something. Anyway, Illuminati, New World Order, one world government. That's what this stuff is. Especially when you act like you know what you're doing and you're doing it anyway, and then you go, instead of you doing it, you go get other people to do it, and then you're doing. It's like whoa, man. It's like, wow, this is like heavy, dude. This is like heavy. Nobody wants to deal with this. That's why everybody just smiles politely and they just act real nice, because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it. And that's a whole nother aspect of it, right? That's a whole nother aspect. The way that evil advances is through audacity. You know, a little bit of evil, and people get up in arms and they'll stomp on it. And, you know, they'll kill that little slimy worm. You know, but when that evil is like a 400-foot tall dragon, people think twice about going up against it, right? Because they sense the ruthlessness and the power of that thing. In their heart, they know it's evil, but their mind is telling them, hey, you better watch out. Maybe if that thing wants you to say it's good, maybe you should say it's good, right? That's one way that evil advances. It's just overwhelming force, like shoving it down people's throats, which is what I feel like you're doing, to be honest with you. I feel like except you're being real sneaky about it, you know? So this is a great evil, and I'm at 28 minutes. And I have a lot more to say about this, but we'll cut it off here, because this is getting into a territory nobody wants to deal with anyway. But anyway, God bless everybody, including Dr. Money. I want him to succeed. I want him to be happy. I want him to be successful in his position. And, you know, I want him to be my pastor, right? But this business of doing exactly what your predecessor did, trying to weave politics, trying to weave very creatively and very sneakily and very like underhanded rhetorical undertones, like a double entendre, double speak kind of sleight of hand, like I'm so clever type thing, trying to weave these political narratives into the message of God and the ministry of Christ. Man, it's no good, man. To me, it's no good. You do whatever you want. I mean, I have no how do you say, interest? No, not interest. I have no investment in the outcome of any of this. It's just what it is, you know. But my opinion is it's not good. Not a good thing at all. All right, God bless everybody. Thank you for watching. Bye.